Hello YouTube, my name is Laura and I just got back from an amazing sci-fi space opera LARP called Starfall Academy, and I'm going to tell you about it. Okay, so where to even start? So Starfall Academy was a LARP put on by Quest Adventure Gaming at the beautiful Hampshire College up in Massachusetts. We as players were playing initiates to the Academy following something called the Dominari Rebellion, which was this huge galactic civil war between the Light's orders that had only ceased 20 years prior. So yeah, wounds were fresh. Alright, so I'm not going to get too far into the history of the Starfall universe because it is quite extensive. Thank you, Quest Adventure team, you did amazing. However, if you are interested in reading more about the galactic lore, then I will put a link in the description box below that will get you to the archive so you can read all about it. Starfall Academy officially began with the initiation ceremony. The Order of Light has 6 different sects, well actually 5, following the Dominari Rebellion. Yikes. Each with their own unique connection to the light itself. Long before Starfall, the sects evolved gradually. First there was the Venafari, the mystics and the spiritual leaders of the light, and then the Dominari, who could allow their light to flow through other people. It was mind control, so you know how that went. Then we had the Riori and the Medicari, the Riori with influence over nature and the Medicari gifted healers. Following them, we had the Velati, the warriors of light, great in combat, and then the Vindori, the preservers and the Orcus. So, we as initiates didn't know what sect our characters would be drawn to. So, essentially the initiation ceremony served as our sorting hat ceremony. So, let me just set the scene. How amazing and cinematic this was. First, we are directed into the concrete courtyard, and then into neat lines led by the Knights of the Order. There is an indescribable mix of energy swirling throughout the open air of the plaza as the newly arrived initiate stands in a palpable silence, before we are led to the ceremony grounds. In lines we remain, as the Grand Master addresses us before giving way to Master Ko, our ancient elder, to read our names. The first line of initiates are moved into place, handed their first crystal saber and directed across the stage. Slowly, it begins to rain, lightly at first, and then progressively harder as each initiate's face alights with the glow of their saber indicating their new sect, their new family. Alright, so I'm going to level with you. Out of character, I was freaking out. I was wearing body paint, I was wearing a wig, I was worried about the rain in both of those situations, but as soon as they gave Rohi that crystal saber and directed her across the stage, it was like immediately in character. Master Ko said her name, she ignited the saber, and it was as if time stopped, like the rain froze, as her face was just bathed in the green light of her new sect. Riori. Alright, to step back and talk about the mechanics for a second, so Quest Adventure Gaming sent out player surveys like most blockbuster LARPs do, asking about our player style, asking about our character style that we've been thinking of, and then also asking what sects we might be interested in, or not interested in. So you could have chosen pretty much then and there which sect you wanted your character to be in, however, we were encouraged to go through this kind of surprise process. On my player survey, the only thing I really indicated was that I wasn't super interested in playing a combat-heavy character, and so I wasn't hoping for Riori, and I did not know for certain that Rohi would be placed into Riori. I will say that I did have to stop myself from putting green accents on all of her clothing, because, you know, plant person. But, you know, I'm really glad that I didn't indicate any sort of way, because the process was really, really fun, and it made a really, really cool moment. After the initiation ceremony, the LARP was structured like a legitimate school. They gave us class schedules based on our sects that included food breaks as well as free time for electives. Now, you could skip class, as there was always main story happening around, some of which would even interrupt your class. However, the benefit of going to class is that's how you learn your new powers and abilities, like normal school, and those were denoted by these cute cards. I had never been to a LARP with any kind of combat mechanic before, so I spoke to a couple of friends who had, and they informed me that this was very unique to this LARP. Okay, break it down for you. Cards have your powers on them. Powers have costs. And we essentially have spell slots, which we denote by these focus beads. Pretty easy. So there was a manual, and I didn't read it, and that was probably a mistake. But honestly, despite that, and honestly even like not reading the manual, and even having never encountered this at a LARP before, I had no trouble understanding or learning these mechanics. So certain classes taught you certain skills. So in my non-Weori classes, I got to learn pretty much what I call the Gen Ed skills. These are the low-level skills of any sect that pretty much any Guardian can learn. Whereas in my Weori classes, I got to learn not only the Gen Ed Weori skills, but also the higher level ones that were specifically Weori specific. Meanwhile, as all of that is going on, we're also entrenched in the main plot. Alright, so jumping back a little bit, so right after the initiation ceremony, we were ushered back to the courtyard, for celebrations, and we found the courtyard completely vandalized. Jason, this wonderful Weori groundskeeper, had been attacked as well. And pretty much walking around, there were signs that said, "Guardians, go home," or "We don't want you here." And then there was a huge rock with glass around it like they shattered a window. So, that really set the tone for the rest of the night. Apparently the nearby townspeople were none too happy at Guardians returning to Titus, and honestly I can't really blame them because the last time they were on there was during the Dominaria Rebellion, and Starfall Academy was literally the seat of the rebellion and also served as a Dominaria prison. But now it's a school. So following that event, the night progressed on, but we found over the course of the night that multiple things had been stolen. So, multiple Guardian artifacts were missing, as well as a supply of Weori herbs, all of which very cleverly served as our first plot hooks into this world. Now, in our Weori class, we were tasked with going into wolf-infested woods to gather herbs to restock the supply. Speaking of Titian wolves, the creatures! Oh my god! So we had an amazing kind of array of creatures. We had figurines, we had puppets, we had people in suits and masks. And I hear you, it sounds so silly from the outside looking in, but when you are in character and you have a Titian wolf with 3-foot long claws that's stalking you, that's sniffing inches from your face as you're trying to hold a conceal spell that you learned seconds earlier, or when you have one that is flat out charging you and you're expected to just command them to do something else, it's terrifying. In addition to powers, we also had Saber classes. We were joined by 4 amazing individuals from Ludo Sport, which is an international organization that teaches sporting saber combat. An amazing sentence. And they played our Bellotti Master and Bellotti Knights as well as our Vendori Knight, and that's a whole lot of jargon, but just so you know, they're in charge. They're teaching the classes. That's all I need to know. But if you are a non-Bellotti or Vendori Guardian like Rohi was, I got two Saber classes a day. That felt very nice, very rounded out. And if you were a Bellotti, you had 6. So, surprisingly enough, Rohi and I both really enjoyed Saber combat. Much more than I thought either of us would. So, that doesn't mean that, careful, that does not mean that I am good. I just really liked the forms, and it felt kind of natural. It felt like a little dance. It was nice. But I learned and was told that I have the problem of overthinking during drills. No surprise there. And literally got to the point where Master Stormbless, the Bellotti Master, told me just to close my eyes. Just to close my eyes. And when I did that, I executed a strike near perfectly. So, all I have to do is just keep my eyes closed during combat. I'll be great. It was so cool to see people that were naturals added, or people who had previous sword fighting just spar, especially at night with the lightsabers on. Alright, so, critiques. So Starfall Academy was amazing, just flat out amazing. It was an incredibly huge and ambitious project, and I think it was executed so very, very well. Now, with ambitious projects, always comes improvements. Now, I'm not gonna pretend that I am some LARP expert. This is my 3rd LARP. This is my first one with combat. However, after debriefing with some friends and having time to process the information, I do feel like I have some observations I can share. So the combat and the power system. Very super cool, super easy to learn, but I did find that I was having trouble retaining that information at the end of the game when we had to form prisms, for these trials, which were essentially tests of things that we learned. Alright, pause. Sorry. I just want to say I adored my prism. Prisms are essentially like forming a party for a mission, and normally you want one of each sect so you can balance the light, but depending on the mission, you know, anything can go. Anyway, just want to say the warrior princesses were amazing. Gaslight Gate Girl Boss.
The issue was not necessarily recalling the skills, it was more so that we didn't really have the opportunity to practice and apply them within a prism. We all knew that we had a role to fulfill within the prism, but had not had an opportunity to practice that at all. So when it came to the trials, thankfully my group was able to succeed at what I think was the most difficult trial. Yikes. Barely. But it would have been nice if we had a class, if we had an elective, or just some training missions where we could really practice like prism tactics. I think now that we are novices, it might make it easier going forward to potentially put some of that in motion. Granted, we this year had to learn what a prism was, find a prism, and all in the span within 2 days, and time was already a precious scarcity, which I'm sure made it really, really tricky. Another thing Starfall did really well is for players that wanted to play pacifist characters and didn't want to wield a saber. And now, I'm not going to talk about what the super secret solution to that was, but it was very, very cool, and I just want to commend Quest on that. On the flip side, I know that there was a split in the Bellotti members where some of them just wanted combat all day, all night. That's just what they wanted, that's what they got, amazing, and they looked great. They did amazing. However, there are some members of the Bellotti who wanted to have a little bit more roleplay options. Granted, this is very difficult, seeing as the Ludosport guys are trying to teach us a form that takes years to master in 2 days, and not an easy feat. They were doing amazing, but I wonder if it would be worthwhile for there to be a combat tactics and like theory course for the Bellotti and maybe even the Vendori, where they have time to explore their characters outside of physical combat. All in all, what Starfall Academy really excelled in, which not even to mention the amazing storyline, not even to mention the amazing NPC work you guys did, amazing, was creating a safe space physically, mentally, and emotionally. The person who played Dr. Ray of Ordo Medicari was also the Chief Health and Safety Officer for the event, and in and out of character, he was amazing. The weekend was hot, and that's especially for New England standards, but everybody made sure classes that were outside were in the shade. Combat classes had numerous breaks with water and Gatorade, and the check-in system was used liberally and wonderfully. There was a moment where we were all together, we were making a procession or walking back before the trials, and it was hot. It was a hot walk. It was a really, really hard walk for some people, and so there was just this time unprompted where players were just snaking down the line, asking each other if they were okay. It was out of character, are you okay, are you okay, are you okay? And that was just so beautiful. My character was nervous and soft-spoken, so people were constantly checking in with me as I was crying, as I was having anxiety, and I was just role-playing, but it was just nice that they cared. The community Quest has built around Starfall is absolutely incredible, and I'm so excited for next year. Hell yeah, we're novices now! Thank you for watching this video. I had such a great time at Starfall Academy, and I'm so glad that I can come home and then tell you all about it. I know this video was a little different than the ones I've been doing. It's a little less out of my character's eyes and more so a general overview. This LARP is a journey, and it felt more fitting to focus on the LARP itself before focusing on my character. But if you are interested in a specific, character-centered video, I could be persuaded to do a part 2. We'll see. So, if you happen to like this video, consider pressing the like button down below. And if you want to watch more of my LARPing journey, consider pressing that subscribe button as well. Yeah. Unity and hope, Guardians. Go in the light.
Hello, YouTube. I will put a description in the link below. No, that's the wrong order. I will put a description in the link below. No, I will not be doing that. That seems hard. That are specifically blah.
We really practice like prison tactics. Sounds like I said prison tactics. Prism tactics. Yeah, prison tactics. Gonna get a tattoo. Gonna spoons. You're on spoons. You're digging the tunnel. You're on watcher. You got this. Yeah.